One. Hello, hello, hello. I am here at Blockchain Expert Conference in Airport City, and I'm joined by Bitcoin OG, but like legit OG, Meni Rosenfeld. How do I know that you're an OG? Besides for the fact that like people say that you are. Um, a few months ago, I had Charlie Shrem on the show, and he was giving me an example as to like how he's been in the space for so long. And he's like, I remember talking with Manny um on like the what was it like in the chat rooms with Satoshi.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you've
yeah, I
been
think
around.
yeah, I think Charlie Shrem is one of the people I met in the New York conference in August 2011. There are a lot of people, I mean, other OGs that I also met there. Some of them haven't stuck around, but others, yeah, still to this day are active in this space. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice to know people who've been here for a long time and see that they're still active and doing the good work.
So what's your story, man? Like how did you fall into Bitcoin?
Okay, so I first heard about Bitcoin from a post on lesswrong.com. It's a community blog dedicated to rationality and all sorts of stuff. They're connected to a research institute called MIRI, and I started accepting Bitcoin donations. This was
How long ago? Yeah.
so it was in the end of February 2011, beginning of March. So I read that post. The post says MIRI is now accepting Bitcoin donations. Of course, I had no idea what Bitcoin was, and I tried to, I don't know, figure out what it was, and what I had in mind was completely different from what it actually was. So I started reading about it some more, and yeah, and the rest is history, as they say. But yeah, it took me a few days to get really deep into this. I mean, I'm trying to recollect the history, but I mean, within a month of hearing about Bitcoin, I started a business for exchanging Bitcoin for shekels in Israel.
Really?
And yeah, and even before that, I wrote a reward system for mining pools, and yeah, it was interesting.
So what was like the Bitcoin ecosystem like in 2011 in Israel?
Mostly there was none. I mean, okay, in Israel, barely anyone had heard about it. There was nothing. I mean, when I joined, I'm pretty sure there was nothing, more or less.
What was Bitcoin trading for at the time?
I didn't hear you.
What was Bitcoin trading
Oh
for
yeah,
at the time?
it was $1 per Bitcoin.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So
how did you acquire your first Bitcoin?
yes. So let's see. Okay, I think my first Bitcoins I mined. I think it was in a mining pool called Deepbit,
And
and
what kind of rewards were you getting?
so so I don't recall exactly, but it was at a time where there were 50 Bitcoins per block, and it was easier to find blocks than now. But yeah, I began mining on Deepbit, which is a mining pool. Later, I got some slightly more serious mining hardware. Back then, it was done on AMD GPUs, and then I mined solo. And yeah, I like to tell the story that I did find several blocks, but of course, mining is very stochastic, very random. So sometimes you find blocks, sometimes not. So remember that I went to bed. I was lying in bed and knowing that while I'm in bed, my mining hardware is mining, and maybe it's finding a block, maybe it's not. It's random. So it used to. I lost
Keep you up
sleep.
at night.
Yeah, I lost sleep over worrying. Did I find the block? Did I not find the block? And then I would wake up and maybe I did, maybe I didn't. So yeah, there was some level of stress involved, but it was fun. It was interesting. But yeah, over time, I think I switched back to mining pools, and around the time that FPGAs ASIC came into the field, I didn't continue mining. So
Okay,
yeah, so that's
but
where I got.
presumably you had like a bunch of Bitcoins and then you're like, okay, how do we turn these into shekels? So then you made your own exchange.
So yeah, it was like a convergence of several ideas. I mean, so first I wanted to acquire more Bitcoin myself. I wasn't satisfied with what I was mining. It was possible to buy, but not that easy. So I figured that maybe there are other miners out there like me who mine Bitcoins, but they want shekels and it's difficult to convert. So I'll be here and offer them the service to sell the Bitcoins to me. Then it's a win-win. They get shekels, I get Bitcoins. And another thought, I thought that I mean, I wanted businesses to start accepting Bitcoin payments. And what I thought that they might not trust it, might not want to accept it, if they don't know, they can later convert the bitcoins to shekels for their own expenses, right? I mean, the business has suppliers, has employees, which currently mostly take shekels. So a business does need to convert to shekels. And I figured if I offered the service for people to be able to sell bitcoins to me, then it will increase the trust in the currency and encourage more businesses to accept it. But yeah, I was wrong in the sense that I kept thinking about people who would want to sell bitcoins to me, but almost nobody did. Everyone wanted to buy bitcoins for me, and yeah, they still didn't have like a serious way to acquire them. So when I started seeing that people want to buy, I started buying bitcoins on empty gox, later on trade deal. So yeah, so over time I got a process for buying, but it came to me as quite a surprise.
And like when you went to buy from Mount Gox, what was that process like?
So I don't remember exactly. I'm assuming it was simpler than it is now because I don't think they did any serious KYC or whatever.
No, I think you just wired money to like Mark Karpelis's like private account, and then he would send you bitcoins.
Yeah, I don't think it was a private account. I mean, the Karpelis company was called, I think, Tiban Core, and I think we wired to a bank account on their name. But yeah, so we wired the money, and yeah, I don't recall any KYC process or whatever. So yeah, it was once. I mean, before that time, I never tried to do a wire transfer to a bank account overseas, right? So, I mean, it's not that complicated for people to do it, but I never done. So I needed to open like a trading account in my bank and a foreign exchange account and whatever. So, in the end, and I think that...
בתוך קופסה מאחורה. פה בצד הזה.
And I think that there was some manual process involved. I mean, I couldn't approve the transfer through the bank's website. I needed to go to the teller and ask to do a transfer. So it was maybe a bit of procedure on the bank side. On the empty gox side, it was pretty easy, I think.
Okay, so that was 2011. And then like, where did you go from there?
So another thing, another thing I started doing in 2011 was organizing meetups. So another OG, which was with me that time, was Ron Gross. So first I organized meetups and they also came. Later we organized them together. So there were meetups which kept growing. And I mean, the first meetup, it was mostly just Ron Gross and me. And there was another one who came in the quick left and left. But over time it increased. And one of the highlights was in March 2013, which we held a meetup with 160 people. And yeah, it's all relative, right? So even people who joined Bitcoin in 2013 are OGs compared to people who have joined more recently.
Even 2016.
Yeah. I mean, there were a few years where there was a lot of influx. So in 2013, there was a lot of influx. In 2017, of course, it correlates with the Bitcoin price. So there are a lot of people who I first met in the meetup in March 2013, which I didn't remember because there were a lot of people. I didn't, what's the word? I didn't remember everyone I met there, and there are a lot of people who later were an integral part of the Bitcoin community, and they tell me that they first met me in the meetup, and I don't remember it. But okay, if you say so, then yeah.
Okay, fair enough. When did you sell your first Bitcoin?
When did I sell my first Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So actually, it was
presumably you kept acquiring.
So actually, I've done like a simultaneous process because before, I mean, back then, like I said, it was not, a big thing like it is today. And I myself didn't have complete trust that there is an actual ecosystem, right? So, I mean, I saw that the Empty Gox website says Bitcoin is $1, but do I really know that there's anyone out there who's actually willing to give
pay
me
$1
money for that? So I wanted to, verify rather than trust. So actually, after I mined my first Bitcoins, I tried to sell them. First, I tried to sell them on empty gox, but so it wasn't as easy as I thought because it did involve the banks. I was hoping to sell it and and withdraw with PayPal, but that
Right.
wasn't an option.
There was no USDT then.
Right, no, certainly not. And but yes, so there was a different website called Coin Card, which offered services for buying and selling Bitcoin for PayPal. So I sold my first mine Bitcoins to Coin Card, got some dollars on PayPal, and then I immediately went to the same website and buy Bitcoins in a greater amount. Now that I know that actually people are willing to give traditional money for it, then I trusted it enough to buy more than I sold. And yeah, so over time I mined Bitcoins, I bought Bitcoins. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, besides that, I mean, yeah, so yeah, no, most of the years I mostly bought, but at some point I reached some sort of equilibrium in my Bitcoin holdings, and then since then I occasionally sell to, to support
To fund my
myself.
life.
Yeah.
What do you do now?
I do all kinds of things. I mean, I am still involved with Bitcoin, so I'm still officially the chairman of the Israeli Bitcoin Association. In the past few years, I wasn't very active. Now I'm starting to be slightly more active because we're in a transition period after our CEO Noah resigned. So while we're figure out the next steps, I'm slightly more involved. But other than that, I do all sorts of coding with AI. I have all kinds of projects that I'm working on, which to me are very interesting. When there's something concrete, I will be happy to share with the world.
Give us a little bit of a teaser. Come on.
So yeah, so one thing I'm working on now is a calculator for transfinite ordinal numbers, which is a mathematical concept. I won't get too deep into it, but it's something which I think is fascinating, and it's not talked about that much. I mean, people who are into math maybe a lot of times talk about cardinal numbers, which are a different thing, which are also great, but I think ordinal numbers are very interesting and they're not talked about enough. So yeah, so I'm working on a website that does all sorts of stuff with that.
Very cool.
And yeah, and other than this project, so lately I try to dedicate as much time as possible to playing the game That's Not a Hat. It's something I was introduced to in the
What is
beginning of
it?
the year. It's a card game, which is mostly a memory game, but it also requires discipline and bluffing and all sorts of stuff. It's a very simple game. It has about 2.5 rules, but to me it's fascinating because the good thing about simple games.
What's the premise of the game?
So the premise is that there are several cards on the board, and everyone sees what's on the cards when the cards join the game, but then they are flipped over, and people need to remember what is in each card. And I mean, I won't specify the exact details, but uh, occasionally you are tested whether you remember something, and then you either need to remember or to make something up and sound convincing. So if you don't sound convincing enough, then people will call you on your bluff. And if you're wrong, it's bad. But if people believe that you actually know what you have, then they won't risk it trying to call your bluff when you might be correct. And it's a fascinating game, very simple, but that means that it's pure skill, and it's a lot harder than a lot of people think it
So
is.
who do you play with?
So I try to play it at every opportunity. I create opportunities when there are none. I mean, yesterday when we had the dinner, I I brought together some people and played the game. Here in the conference, I didn't do it yet, but I plan to organize a group
Can you
and
show
play the
me
game.
you have it here?
Actually, I have it here. Um, yeah, I don't have the original box here, but I do have the cards. So yes, so you can show the camera whatever. So so that's the back. There are arrows right and left, and the colors, and yeah, and each has a
With
very
different
simple
objects.
drawing. You just need to remember what's in each card, and the cards get shuffled around the table, and you need
Very cool.
I mean, at each point, every player has a card of their own, and he mostly needs to remember their own card. But if they remember other people's cards, that's also an advantage.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, share with me just like a few thoughts. What your thoughts of the future of the industry. I mean, Bitcoin and maybe also crypto generally. I don't know if you're like a Bitcoin maximalist or if you
Um,
also are a
yeah,
supporter or proponent of the.
I consider myself a mini-maximalist. I mean, I think Bitcoin is the currency that has proven that it really has a use case and it actually makes use of the technology that was invented. So I think Bitcoin has proven itself. Everything else still needs to prove itself. I do think it's good that there are other projects, other attempts, other use cases, other approaches to the same use case. So I think it's good, and I don't reject anything on the spot, but still, I'm not convinced that anything else have reached the level that Bitcoin has in terms of being being useful and being true to some of the principles that guided the creation of Bitcoin.
Very cool. Manny, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.